So we having fun yet? We know Mardi Gras was last Tuesday. Lent began on Wednesday, and I can only keep that on for a few minutes. And Lent is a form of fasting, that we fast from things that distract us from God for 40 days. So if you were raised in the religion that I was, you gave things up. And you gave up candy and chocolate, or maybe a not so good habit like smoking or overeating. What did you give up? Some of you. What did you? Soda. Yeah, some of the stuff. Anybody else that you used to give up? Caffeine. Yeah. Yes. So unity gives us something different to fast from. And some of you may have heard of this. And Dan, if you'd put up what we call Lent. We say for Lent, let's eliminate negative thinking. And if we do that for 40 days, our lives will be changed. So this year, we're affirming the best me ever. And we're going to have talks through Lent on negative thoughts we can give up to help us become the best me ever. Today's talk is judging others. What if I could give that up for 40 days? I noticed just on my drive here, which is 5 minutes, how many times I judged. I pulled out at my stoplight, and this guy in this wonderful red convertible went zooming by me. And I watched where my thinking went, and then I got it back. And we're going to talk about more of that next week. I'm really getting off track. Judgment. My judgment is a red flag. It means I need to stop and pay attention because my ego's in charge. Right? It is the mask that I hide behind. And I make up stories about others. I assign blame. I assume my point of view is the only one, and it's right. Been there? So I read a little piece that one time Babe Ruth was thrown out of the game. And he stomped over to the umpire and he said, "There are 40,000 people in the stands who all know I'm not out." And here's what the umpire said to him. "That may be so, but mine is the only opinion that counts." And when I'm judging others, isn't that what I'm doing? We all have that inner judge, don't we? And we judge everything. We judge the car somebody drives, the house they live in, how they look, their clothes, their height, their weight, their religion, their race, their politics, whether they like or dislike Obamacare. Others are not wrong because they don't agree with us. They're just seeing it differently. They have a different story. When Cindy's co-worker arrived late for work, Cindy judged her. She thought she was irresponsible. She goes, "I can get to work on time. Why can't she?" But what she didn't know is that when her co-worker woke up that morning, her child was ill. And very ill. So the first thing she had to do was call the doctor. She then called the boss to let him know she was going to be late. She then had to get a sitter, and then she had to go get the prescription. But Cindy judged her without even knowing a little bit of the story. When I do something like that, my lesser self is showing up. It's labeling, it's assuming, and it's basing how I think others should be without knowing their story. There's an American Indian proverb, I'm sure you've all heard it. Don't judge another man until you've what? Walked a mile in his moccasins, shoes, yeah. So Gina's son is thanks, Chris. Gina's son is addicted to drugs, and he lives on the streets. He lies, he steals, he does whatever he can to support his addiction. And Gina prays that the people he encounters, the police, the nurses, even the people that he steals from, will remember that he has a story. That he didn't choose to become an addict. When he was a little boy, he didn't say, I'm going to grow up to be an addict. She prays they will see beyond his addiction to what we in Unity call the Christ self, the image of God, because we know that's inside everyone. And by doing that, they'll reflect that image to him, and maybe he'll get a glimpse and remember who he really is. She not only prays it, she practices it in her life. She tries to see the image of God in the driver who flipped her off because she forgot to signal, in the angry woman who screams at the checkout clerk, in the homeless person begging for food. She tries to remember that each one of them have a story, just like her son. No matter what unhealthy habits someone has, how rude, grumpy, annoying, argumentative, impatient they're being, there's a story behind that. There's a reason, there's a history why they're showing up like that. You know, it could be something as simple as they just had a spat with somebody at their house, or they've had difficulty on the job. Or maybe they're estranged from their loved ones, or maybe they're walking around with a serious illness diagnosis, and they're really having a bad day. Maybe some of them carry a long history of a hard childhood or being bullied. Maybe they've been a rape victim. Or they're just someone who's never been seen as valuable or listened to. And so, what do? They put on this mask. And we've got our mask on. And what happens? It's not pleasant. In Matthew 5:1, Jesus speaks and says, do not judge so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged. And the measure you give will be the measure you get. When I judge, every thought, every feeling, every word emits negative energy. And that energy becomes the building blocks for my life. In Unity, we talk about the law of mind action. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. If I judge you and you and you, the guy in the red Corvette, what am I going to get back? More judgment. I'm going to see everyone as judging me. Jesus continues, why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye. My judging is always extension of my own self-judgment. Just think about it. And this is going to be next Sunday's talk. If I'm happy with me, if I'm aligned and present with Spirit, with God, connected to God, then I'm not going to be judging anyone else. So anyone that comes at me with a judgment has got something going on. It could be one of those things I named. And that has created in their life the way they react to the world out here. Because they've been judging, so they're getting judgment back. My judgment says more about me than it does the person I'm judging. Others know, they feel when they're being judged. It's energy. And whether they hear it or not, there's a reaction in them. All judgment causes pain. It carries rejection and punishment, not just for the person I'm judging, but for me. Think about it when you've made a judgment. How does it feel? It doesn't feel good, does it? You don't feel happy. The body contracts, it tightens up. Whereas when you like someone, love someone, say something nice, it's an open feeling. It feels good. Judgment emits negative energy into the world. Do you get that? Because what am I doing with my energy when I'm in judgment? And we're energetic beings. We can't help not be. It energetically creates damage. Mother Teresa has a saying. You have that, Dan? If you judge people, you have no time to love them. If you judge people, you have no time to love them. We are powerful beings, and we have the power to contribute to a safe, emotional environment for others. You hear that? I have the power to create a safe, emotional environment for you. Isn't that why you come here? Because you know when you come here that you're accepted for just the way you are. You know when you're here, no one is judging you. You know when you're here, you can be 100% yourself and you're loved. Doesn't that feel good? Isn't that why you keep coming back every Sunday? Now, can we take that? Can we take it out there? Can I remember it out there? So how do we do all this? How do we do it? First thing we have to do is start practicing detaching from ego. Feel when that ego is really out there screaming and pull it in. Choose to become consciously responsible for our judgments. Can I choose to become consciously responsible for my judgments and their effect on others? So, when you leave here today, just watch. Just watch your thing and see how far you get. You know, some of the judgments are really just little things, and some of them are big. But just watch the first one, how far you get away from being outside of this room before the first one kicks in. And when it does, stop and choose a kinder, more loving thought. And if you're out in the world and you find yourself reacting, choose a kinder, more loving action or word. You know, one of the simplest things to do, you can really catch yourself and stop yourself to doing this, is you find yourself judging, somebody's right in front of you, you find yourself judging them. Stop and really pay attention and find one honest compliment you can give that person. You have a great smile. I like your shirt, the color of your shirt. Some little thing. And you will see a smile. And depending on the compliment, you might see their whole face light up. And when they do, what's happening? Positive energy is going out into the universe. It's going out of them into you. It's going out of them into everything around you. Practice seeing what we call in unity the Christ in others. One of our principles, each one of us have a divine spark of God in us. So when I'm in judgment of someone, can I stop? Can I say, wait a minute, underneath that behavior that I'm judging, there's that divine spark. Let me focus on that. Let me connect to the one in me and connect that to theirs. Practice seeing the image of God in others the way Gina is doing right now. So I've got some commitments for us today. And I'm going to read them once, and then we're going to say them together. And you might notice which ones really resonate with you, which one you want to take with you. So, Dan, if you put the first one up. I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel welcomed, worthy, and accepted in my presence. When I start with love, my ego doesn't have time to come up with a judgment. It doesn't have time to determine someone else's value. So let's read that one together. I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel welcomed, worthy, and accepted in my presence. Close your eyes and breathe that in. Own it. Welcomed, worthy, and accepted. You have the power to do that for another human being. Let's look at the next one, Dan. I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel abundant in my presence. That my presence tells them that they are enough, that they are perfect, they are whole, they are complete. That even if they're not seeing the best them ever, I can see it for them. Let's say that one together. I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel abundant in my presence. Breathe it in. I have the power to help someone know they are enough. And the next one, Dan. I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel loved in my presence. To do that, I have to recognize my own self-judgment. I have to recognize my fears. I have to recognize this mask that I'm hiding behind. Because that keeps me from being kind and from being loving. So let's read this one together. I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel loved in my presence. If you're comfortable doing so, turn to somebody next to you, and I'll read it out loud so we can say this one again. And you can say it, if you can remember it, you can say it or peek at the screen, whatever you have to do. Okay, are we ready? I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel loved in my presence. Good job. Good job. Next one, Dan. I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel gratitude in my presence. That my words and actions remind you that you are enough. That you feel good you're here. That you feel good about what you're doing. About who you are. And together, I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel gratitude in my presence. And the last one. I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel encouraged in my presence. That's a big one. That's a big one. Can I support others in owning their strength and their power, their goodness? When they look in my eyes, do I reflect back to them the best them ever? Let's say that one together. I want to show up in life in such a way that you feel encouraged in my presence. Take that one with you today. And you find yourself judging someone, stop and find that honest compliment. Because that is encouragement. Encourage someone to be themselves, to just let go and not have to have any defenses, to let their mask down and know with their mask down, they're loved just the way they are. This Lent, let's remove our mask of judgment. Let's call upon the greater good within us to help create a better world. Let's eliminate the negative thinking of judging others. God bless you.